What's going on? Come on. Alright. Hey guys, sorry about that. Took a little bit more time than I thought. Okay. Boy, my computer was having a sitch. So we got it. We're doing. Alright, perfect. Just wanted to make sure. Okay, let's do this thing. Let's hop right into it. We'll get into this efficiently. Okay. Hold on. I'm pushing my pieces off to the side. Hold on. Let's get into this. Okay, Fabi's black, so let's do this thing here. Okay. Let's flip the board here. Come on, come on, come on. Be efficient. So he does the French, the start of the French. It's the Winier variation. So he takes. You don't really want to come back and do this because there's potentially that, and I think it benefits at this point. There's taking here, here, but I'm not sure if. See, the only problem is then you have that, and so I don't know. I guess you could take and white's up because of that, and then you come back and just not good for black, because come on, don't lag on me. Good. Here there's bishop there, and this is open, and so there's an attack for white even though he's down a pawn. So there's also, if you come back here, you come there. If you come here, let's say he takes there, you take here, and it's basically an equal game, and you have to play here. This was actually played, I believe, in the US Open. It was Lenormand who played king to f8, and it didn't turn out very well when he faced Fabi. It was not very fun, let's just say. Okay, and so that's kind of what happened then. Like what the computer said is that the queen comes over to b4, he checks, knight intercepts, and then the queen wins the pawn back. So there's lines that are better for white. This is an equal position though, if you can get this. And at this point, white would want to undermine the pawn structure on a6, and then push here, and push on d4. Also, you potentially, like b6 would have to be played. That's kind of a weakness now, so the bishop has to stay there, and then the knight comes in, and the black king is at castle, so you have to kind of consider that. I guess it's off this, and you can win here, but it's still equal. I think the queen bishop would be locked down if I'm not mistaken in the line, in this line. Then you play bishop b7, and potentially you can push. Or I've actually seen queen to, not queen c7, but let me see, what was that line that I saw? Maybe it was queen c7, then knight to g6, because that's a double attack on the pawn, I think. And then at the right moment, g6, actually g6 can't be played, sorry. I've actually seen the king move, and then potentially h6, and then once the knight moves, if the knight doesn't move, you have g6 and knight to and king g7. So I believe this is online. Let's check the book real quick. The book opening line. I want to see, because let's see. So bishop takes, actually. So a5 has been played. Bishop a5 takes. This kind of isn't. This isn't really the best, because well, I guess if you kind of want a line, subline of a subline, this kind of would be a line that you can work on, and I doubt that. I'd probably say that the queen would come in, but then you have knight. So there's only one game that arises from that. So it's Hanke versus Shermind, or something like that. Mikkel. So I'm just calling Mikkel then. So that's kind of the one movie. So Fabi actually played the main. This is the main line of the Winnier, and B takes C is actually played 10,000 times if you notice. Then there's actually 3 or 4 lines that are usually played. That one's played. This leads to if white gets a little greedy and plays, if you play here, you can actually go for the poison pawn variation and get a pretty good quick attack. There's also c7, which c7 is an interesting, queen c7 is an interesting move. What it does is it prepares for the undermining of the structure. You actually cement the queen and knight here, and then the knight comes and you castle. This actually prepares for a queen to g4. That's kind of why that's played the most. Knight c6 is kind of a subline. Then there's bishop d7, which is actually better for white. 50% chance of winning. So half of the games actually ended with a win, and half here. So if you want to think about it, I guess this is black's best chance of winning, 33%. But this is the main line. There's like 6,000 games. And Fabi's opponent actually played not the main line, which is G4. He played the secondary line, which is knight f3. And that's not a bad move. What he's wanting to do, he doesn't want to give up these pawns. He wants to keep the queen here to guard this pawn, because what will happen is if queen comes out here, then you go into a line, a deep line, and a Winnier is more line orientated, so you got to be very careful when you do that. So he plays knight f3, and that allows there's actually actually 4 different main lines, or 5 if you want to consider that. Bishop d7, if you want to think about it, bishop d7 has more applicability, I guess, with getting your light squared bishop out. See, what your weakness in the French is your light squared bishop, so if you're thinking about getting your light squared bishop out, bishop d7 would be a really good move, and it is played 549 times, and it does give it's more drawish, but it slightly is better for white, because if you notice, 35% of the games end up with wins for white out of the 549. And then you have bishop b6. I haven't played this. This is another way to get your, one sec, we'll turn this off. Sorry, it's kind of annoying. Bishop b6 is a way to get your light squared bishop fianchettoed, and then later on, if this opens up, or when it opens up, if you can get it open, you have a really strong diagonal. And really, if you're looking at it, white's going to castle king side, because his pawn structure on the queen side is a horrible, or deplorable, as we could say, and so that's not a good way to castle if you were to. I guess if you're forced, you have to. I guess you could, but I wouldn't want to castle with something like that. It'd be like opening the gate of your castle and saying, "Come on in." So then there's a knight bd7, bc6, or knight bc6. Sorry. This also has, if you think about it, applicability with eyeing that pawn, and then you also later on have b6. Queen a5 has been played. I've seen a lot of games, Grandmaster games with queen c5, because what it does is it takes scope on a pin. It's more of a sub line, and what you're doing at that point is now you're able to play knight c6, knight bc6, and then knight f5, and you have two attackers plus this pawn, and the pawn that you think is actually protecting this pawn is actually pinned to the king. So that's the idea behind it. Then queen c6, c7 prepares for prepares for the f6. So if you want to play queen c7, f6 is played, or potentially after queen c7 castles. Sorry, queen c7 castles, and then f6, and that makes it so the queen has more scope on the king side. So, and then h6 is a really off line. It has a better chance for winning for white, because if white wants to, in this scenario, either play bishop g6, g5, sorry, or knight g5. So h6 has some applicability if you want to think about it, because it prepares g5, h6, g5, for if black castles, which he's eventually going to, because there's just so much pressure here. He's going to have to get his king out of the center. There's just so much. And then castles actually benefits white here, because you don't really want to do that yet. You want to kind of get some pieces developed. So, and Fabi's opponent actually played, let me see, the third best line here, bc6. Reason I'm pulling up the open book is I just wanted to show you kind of ideas behind this in the French, because sometimes I can't remember all the lines that I go over. I'm working on it. I'm getting better at that. But it's good to kind of just go over the lines so you guys can actually see. Now, A4 is one of the big lines that potentially could be played. And this kind of, it stops that push. See, if black wants to, he could start playing on the queen side. So there's a lot of play for black, and then there's for white, bishop e2 is played. Bishop d3 is actually let's see, how much percentage is that? Wow, this actually, if you think about it, bishop e2 is actually best. Winning ratio wise, it's best. And I've gone over, Ginger GM has some really good ones on the Killer French, and he talked about how this line here allows for the queen to actually infiltrate in, and then potentially knight can actually come in here later on, or after here takes, and that opens up the position with here. There's one time, actually I'm sorry, this does allow this because of here, and you can actually play knight takes, pawn takes. I guess queen takes, then knight comes in, and that's under fire, and that's under fire. So you just got to be careful. This is very intense of a move. That's best to say. It's, if you like sharp lines, bishop d3 is actually what you want for white. And then what was actually played is the fourth line, which is h4, which actually gives black the best chance of winning. It's almost equal to their chance ratio of games win to loss. So it's really interesting. So if you're thinking about it, the move you want to play is actually bishop e2. It has a better win to loss ratio for white. If you're thinking playing for white, bishop e2 in this scenario. But h4 was played, which actually there's actually 4 different moves, or 5. Queen a5's one. This is actually the main line. It does benefit white, because then white can actually play bishop d3 and prepare for an attack there. So it does a lot though for taking and kind of potentially then playing queen after there. You could take and then takes, and then queen a4 kind of to take scope along that. So pretty intense a5. I don't know if I'd play it though. I don't think I'm that intense, as they would say. More than likely, what makes most sense to me is bishop d7, because you're not really concerned if you play bishop d7. You're not. I know you're thinking, wait, can't he do something like that? Yeah, but remember, move this right here allows for a huge attack. Also, potentially you have queen. You have this. If that's played, you have queen to a5. And then if the bishop comes out, now you can actually play knight g6. And if pushes, you can take. Knight takes, and you've actually crunched the center. And these pawns are yucky, as I would say. It's not fun, let's just say. So h4 was played, and Fabi plays the best line, actually winning line for black. f4 as the best win to loss ratio. Out of 4, 3 are winners. And his opponent plays actually the losing line. It's weird. This is actually the best line here. Bishop f4 is best. So it's the total best line, because it prepares for, if that takes, the knight could take, and then if the knight takes, the bishop could take back, outposting with a pin. So this move here makes more practical sense than h5, and that's what was actually played. And 3 out of the 3 games were wins for white. So what you'd have to do at this point is take, and that's what he did. And now all the games that are played, all the moves that white play, are winning for black. So it doesn't matter if you take here, doesn't matter if you play here, and it doesn't matter if you take there. Every game that you would go over is 1 game for black. So theoretically, in this scenario, black is going to win. So his opponent, I guess, chose the best of the worst, h6, trying to undermine, and Fabi then takes. But you're saying, wait a second, doesn't this kind of, oh wow, this is the game that we're on right now. Interesting. They actually have the game we're on. So the line that we're actually going over here is a game on IC chess, LI chess. So now we can kind of take away our book and then now just play the game out. So isn't that cool though, how you can actually take an opening book line. If you're interested in like the King's Indian, click on the book, go to the very beginning, and you can play it out, and then get to games on here and look at the games and see kind of why it's winning and why it's losing. So a5 was played, queen a5, bishop d2, bishop d7, and then castle queenside. See, you're thinking, wow, he's castling queenside, right? That's not a problem, because there's really no infiltration point. If there was a take here, the queen would actually take back, and then these pawns, how many isolated pawns, I mean, how many pawn islands? 1, 2. They usually consider, even if they're like this, they're individual islands. So Fabi's opponent has 4 pawn islands, and Fabi has 3, because these are all connected. Even though they look like they're not, these are still connected. So in an endgame play, Fabi would actually be advantage ahead by at least like a 0.5 or so. So yeah, a4, not a rook, b1. I just want to show you a line if Fabi was to play that. And his opponent played Fabi played knight c7, and this solidifies his structure, because it keeps hold there, also gets out of a pin, and there's no real reason to kind of go for this, because if you were to go back here and let's say you took here, that just causes a problem for you. You could play, I guess you could play here, but then I don't know if it's a draw. I think it is a draw here, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Oh, it's winning for white. Snap. So whatever you do, don't take that pawn. It looks tempting. It's not worth losing. Just retreat your queen back and aim for the king side. I know it's kind of interesting. You're thinking, why would he give up a rook? Really, the only active piece for white is the knight, and I forgot how many times the knight actually moved. I think it moved, like, if I'm not mistaken, like 4 times. Let me see. 1. No. I have to go. I gotta see where the F. Okay, 1. Let's see. Any more knight moves? 2. And then it moved 3 times. So when you get more advanced in chess, you start looking at something called initiative, and initiative sometimes is worth sacrificing a piece over, and development as well. If you notice that the only pieces that Fabi's opponent has that's developed is the rook, which really isn't. It controls an open file. The knight was his opponent's knight was his most active and important piece, and the rook here wasn't really doing anything. So it was a good trade positionally, and so he took with the queen, and now Fabi's queen can start to come into play through a whole different route. And there's really no way the queen would have to come here and here, and then what Fabi could actually do is potentially play b6 and then king c6, and that would hold the structure. So this is like 2 moves out. So Fabi's got 2 moves before he can even think about like checkmate. So b5, he's trying. His opponent's trying to eliminate one of Fabi's knights, because in an endgame, knights are really powerful. And Fabi has one thing that his opponent doesn't have, which is actually an open file. He's willing to give up even more material, because it's not about material. he's going to be able to infiltrate in here. And if the rook checks, which really doesn't do anything, you potentially could actually play bishop e8. I know this sounds a little bit ludicrous, tiny bit, but what you're doing now is you're threatening a check and to win the queen, and then the bishop would have to come back. So if the bishop ever took on c6, the knight could take on c6 and prepare for, actually I think you could actually check here, my bad, sorry, get rid of that knight takes. That's actually a bad move, because what would happen, the king comes up and then you can actually snap off. But you gotta be careful, because he can actually take back, but you'd be up a whole piece in that move sequence. So I think you'd still be okay. And then if he tries that, then you're in kind of a problem sitch. You'd have to play there, and I don't know. Maybe you can shut down the position with knight c6. That's now under fire, and so if bishop takes, pawn takes, there's really no way. He could play here, but I don't know if I like that. Then he takes, and you take back, and this pawn is still under fire as well. So is that pawn. So if the king tries to retreat back to guard it, you then can activate your king on the light squares, and there's only one more pawn that needs to go to a light square, and this bishop is very inferior to the rook. So that's why the queen kind of came in. He doesn't really want to go through this type of thing, as I showed you guys. Check, bishop intercepts, pawn takes. Now the queen's attacking the rook. Rook goes all the way back. Because it served its purpose, it neutralized this bishop. So now the bishop would have to come back here. If it did, then that pawn potentially could be attacked. C takes d, knight takes. And this is kind of a scary position if you want to think about it. I really wouldn't want to be in black's position, but it's the weirdest thing, guys. There's really no threat at this moment. It's all attack, go. That's why knight f3 was played, king d3, and then rook now comes, and queen c5, and then the knight intercepts, and it's like, what in the world? Look at all these pieces that are eyeing the king, right? But none of them have any power. If you played here, you just take there, and if he tries up here, I guess you might be at a problem now that I think about it. Well, I guess you could do that, and then the bishop's in a fork, so the king might take, then takes. And if queen can't take, can't take there. Rook can't come here. It's like crazy, and then this is also now a problem here for a fork. So there's tactics galore all over the place. So the queen moves to b5, trying to now provoke mate. And then the Fabi goes, really? Did you look at your bishop? Did you look at your queen? If you take, which is what he did, he takes. And if rook takes, you just lose a piece. And Fabi has more than enough compensation for the king. You then could come here and then start attacking there. Then potentially the knight to d4 is another potential idea for check, and then the rook comes down, and then more and more pain. So takes, a takes, and knight e2. E2 is to kind of cover this bishop, but it's not going to help out because knight cd d4 is actually crushing. There's really nothing you can do, and then you take here, and it's just like a annihilation. There's just too many pieces all around. These pawns are perfect. Let's see what the computer says the continuation is, because I know if he plays, he can't, my bad, he can't play here. He could play here, but I think that just gets destroyed with that. Yeah, that's me. So the only move really is back, and then you have I think the computer loves kind of to do a little bit of it does it like it did it like 2 times, and then it goes there, and the knight comes, and then you win a piece, and then you win another piece, then he comes up, then you win another piece, and then the rook comes up, and then you take that piece, and then the king moves, and then you come up, and if the rook takes, then you play check, and then if king takes, then you have check, mate 12, and if he comes up, then you can actually play bishop takes, and then you take the rook. I think you can mate even sooner than that. Let's see if we can. Mate, and he pushes, and then check. Now that all these squares are covered, and it's going to be mate. So let's go back to see if we couldn't actually just it still works out to the same thing. I kind of do more of a positional play like this. Okay, now let's get into our puzzles, and we'll get some of our puzzles ready to rock and to roll. Okay, I just wanted to go over that game with you. It was really interesting. Fabi played Lenormand, who kind of is like very similar to, he likes a certain line of the French, and so, but Fabi knew the French a little better because of he grew up playing it. And when I heard Yazzer, Jennifer, and Maurice talk about that, I wrote it down, and then I looked up, and I saw that Fabi had a lot. He used the French when he was first beginning as like 13, 14. So I figure if Fabi has the French, and he's candidate, for candidate champion for the world, I think there's something to us starting out in the French. So just take that in consideration if you're thinking of an opening for black. Okay, excuse me. Alright. Let's see here. So bishop, let's see what was, okay, bishop takes knight. Let's see, let's take our time and be efficient with our moves. Okay, let's think, what was the drawback to that move? And no longer guards, if you want to think about it. This diagonal is potentially under fire right now. So if we play queen takes bishop, we actually so queen takes bishop, queen takes knight, then we can actually play rook takes e5, and the queen's lost. So if we take here, the queen actually can't really take. So the next line we'd have to look at, if queen takes d6, rook takes e8, rook takes e8, and now there's a pin on the queen, and if the queen moves, we have a discovery. So we could actually win some material, potentially. So that's kind of what I see is this forces an exchange here as well. There's a pin there, and potentially it forces also, if the queen wasn't there, checkmate. So, and if the rook wasn't there too. So this move does have a lot of ideas for black. So let's see if we did take what potentially is white's best option. That's kind of how you have to look. So our idea is taking on d6. We take d6. Let's see here. We know if we take here, he'll lose a queen plus a rook. He'll actually lose a queen for a rook because this rook will take, queen takes. So that's not part of the plan. This also gets out of a pin too, so that's helpful. So takes here, takes. So I don't know if that's best. Interesting. I think at that point, queen takes would be best. So if we took here, queen takes, h5. But we have to, in theory, we do have to take, because if we don't, if we do something else, the queen potentially could come here, and we'd have to play there, and then the rook would take. So by taking here, even though there's a check, we could play f8, king f8, guarding our rook, and the threat is still good. So let's see. So that's kind of one main line we could look at. I'm trying to see if there's anything else potentially. We potentially have a knight move, but I'm not sure if that's best, like either of these knights. But you still have that, and then you move, and then, so I don't know. I'm kind of seeing that more than likely that has more of a threat to it, if you want to think about it. This has more of a tactical base that we can use, so I'm going to probably go with that. Now when we play rook takes, we can actually win a rook now. Oh, snap. Or better, win the queen. Oh, drat. I missed that there was a fork there. I have to look at the whole board. That teaches us look at the whole board. We had the right idea though with the analyzing, but I just missed e8. That was my fault there. Sometimes it's irritating. Hey, how you doing? This is an interesting move for sure. If you have rook takes knight, bishop pawn takes bishop, rook takes check. Wow, he's got a cross attack there. I don't like that. he takes there, we win that, so he's not going to take. He'll take with the pawn. So rook takes knight. Pawn takes bishop. Rook check. King up. There, then we have check. If queen intercepts there, not sure if I like that. One sec, I'll be right back, guys. Alright. Okay, let's see what the drawback to this is. My queen's no longer defended. Potentially bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, rook takes, but then you have rook there with check, so not sure if I actually liked that. Ooh, why don't we just take there? My bad. We do potentially have bishop takes knight. Now that I think about this, bishop, because this is open now, this diagonal, bishop takes a knight is crushing, because then pawn has to take, and then queen can take the rook, protecting the pawn there. So yeah, that is the correct move. Wow. Kind of just got to look at the whole board. I'm trying not to get so narrow in my viewing, so also try to get more efficient with my tactical learning too, so we can get through more and have fun as right alongside. If you guys have any ideas, more than happy for you to put the ideas in, and we'll go over them as well. So that's a good idea. Okay, this is interesting. What idea is that based on? I guess in his mind he's thinking he's getting out of a skewer, but really there's, or I'm sorry, not a skewer, a pin. But really there's no pin, and I don't understand actually why he moved that. That doesn't make, he could have played here if anything, which would have been slightly better, but the opponent played there, so let's see how white can severely take advantage of that with great haste. Let's see, that opens up this whole diagonal for attack on the rook. So that's a potential idea. So if we did play there, which would be potentially a drawback, because the queen no longer guards there. Let's see, what would he play? He has really really only one move, and it's up. There's actually that too. That's pretty interesting now that we think about that. Bishop b4. Because if he takes there, we win the queen. Bishop b4 if he comes back. We then could play bishop takes, rook takes, queen takes. We're just equal at that point, so I'm not sure if maybe first we play here to draw the rook up, and then we play there. Back down, because then the rook's up here and it's not protected by his brother. That does do one thing. It doesn't allow the queen to get back here. So if we played here, that actually takes away one move. We play back, the rook has to come back to keep in contact with his brother. So I guess he potentially could come over there. Boy, this is a puzzle for sure. Because this has a lot of different lines that you can go down. I'm trying to figure out which line's best here. Hey, how you doing? Let's see, if we play it there, it comes up. That doesn't work. Yeah, I'm glad you're doing good. I'm doing good too. Can't have a bad day, like I always say when you're doing chess. Can't have a bad day. I'm thinking it's bishop b4. I'm pretty sure. Because he can't take, because he'll lose the queen. That's kind of the drawback. I was looking at this, but he can just move up, and I don't really see any really good response for him. There is that, then there. Just looking for more of a tactical move, and that looks at this moment, because the queen's not here guarding this rook twice. It's bishop c5 has some idea. That's cool. That's good. Well, when you first do your first tournament, when you first do really anything, you kind of get nervous. But then the more you do and the more you put practice into it, the better you'll get. Yeah, the only sitch I see about this is potentially there. Oh, wow. Well, he got there because he, like what we said, he put the player put the time in. And we just have to put our time in. You're not going to get around it. You just got to put your time in and work it. I believe if he plays back here, we have queen, maybe queen there. I believe that's an interesting move. And then we actually can play rook takes, queen takes. I believe we're up a pawn in that line. What am I missing here? Oh, snap. Why doesn't this work? What did I miss here? Oh, it helps out. Okay, he could play there. Oh. We reconnected. Well, there's a Jeremy Silman has some really good books, and if you're interested in kind of learning and opening as well, Allied Chess has a down here. You can actually activate something called opening, and what you do is you can go back through to like this move here, and it'll show you all these different moves, and then it'll give you like 1,300 games, or 13,000 games, sorry, over 13,000 on C5, and you can go through and look at those games and kind of get a feel for why C5 is played. There's also a lot of YouTube, stuff. There's a lot of YouTube stuff. St. Louis has some and all that. Drat. Let me see. We gotta get this. That's good. Good. Keep with that. He teaches you. He also has one on imbalance, and that's a really good one as well. It teaches you how sometimes you can in a closed position trade off. Yeah, that is important. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's see, what is that? That's weak. You have to look at drawbacks. I'm still getting used to the drawbacks. We potentially have an idea like that. That's an idea. We do have an in-between move idea there. If he takes here, we have an in-between move. So here, if he takes there, we take here. And you win a knight. And then we come back with our queen and snap the bishop off, and we're good for a good attack there. Pretty sure that's right. Yeah, this is funny. He walked right into another one. Knight takes bishop on b6, protects and attacks the queen. So that's a big one there. So it's like walking right into another problem. Sometimes I find that I overcomplicate positions, so gotta not do that. It's sometimes just there, you play it, you attack the piece, you come down and you triple up and win a piece. I tried to do some, tactical big thing, and it wasn't actually that. So I have to remember that. Let's see here. C5. Looks very similar to what I tried, but it didn't work out. I don't think it'll work out the way our opponent thinks it will. Let's see here. We have a potential knight. G5. Potentially some of these moves, guys, are actually the drawback is waste of time. Let's see here. It's actually being attacked, so if somehow we can get our queen to a spot where that's an interesting idea with the attack there. The bishop takes. Actually, bishop can't take at that point. So let's see here. What could he play? He might try either a queen there or a queen here, or potentially a queen there. Ooh, that's interesting. I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, that looks like the move, because what it does is attacks the queen, guards the queen, and then we're going to win a piece. Yeah. There we go. Simplicity sometimes is what we need. Tried to make this mega thing work out, and it was a simple protect the queen, win the bishop, and attack the queen at the same time. So the theory of two weaknesses, like Jeremy Silman said, is applicable. So rook takes, bishop here. Okay. Yeah, we're doing it. We're clicking along for sure. Let's see here. If we take, he plays bishop there. So this really, the sacrifice is kind of the interesting thing for sure. Kind of thinking we're forced to actually take in this scenario. Otherwise, he'll take our rook and be up in exchange. Excuse me. Just gonna play a pin there, but what we could do is at that point double up our rooks. And if the queen comes over here, oh wow, he can take, can he? Well, I think it's mate if he takes, though. Yeah, I believe it'd be mate. Because the queen would cover here. The bishop would cover here. This bishop covers here, here, here. Yeah, it would be checkmate. So close. That would be a good idea. That would have been a good idea, but for that. I really don't see anything better than to actually take there. Wow. This is a pain in the drain. Well, if we play there and queen takes, this bishop's a problem. So I'd probably say bishop takes, g5 would be the move with that threat there. Ah, man, this is a not fun. Boy, I don't know what to actually do in this scenario. This is missing something here. What am I missing? Yeah. Yeah, the only problem though is bishop takes. No, that's not dumb. Glad you proposed it. Because you know what? It's good to think about ideas. Let me see here. Oh boy, 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 boy. What are we missing? missing here? There's something that I'm missing. Yeah, I'm looking at that, but boy, that looks so uncomfortable. But that's really, I'm thinking if there's any like checks or anything that I can, throw in there or something. That's covered, so I can't do that. If I try here, that's covered, so there's really no checks that I can do. So, oh man, we'll give it a shot. I'm not really sure. I don't think I'm not sure actually what to do. Oh, we move back. Okay. Wait a second. Let's see why. Let's see why G5 wasn't right. We'll learn from our. Huh. Okay, that's kind of why it makes sense now. That was I think that was more than, just my opinion, more than 2400. I think that was like a 2500 one. Okay, so here, from here to here. Had the rook idea right, just didn't have the queen idea. So, let's see. That knight's on pre, but we can't really take advantage of the knight. Trying to see if, but that actually loses to that, so you can't do that. Trying to see if potentially knight a6 might be an idea for check. Instead of takes. takes, rook takes, rook takes, king takes. Queen's almost trapped. So if we can somehow attack the queen. Yeah, but we'll work through this because I'm trying to see. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry I went quiet there for a second. I was trying to calculate everything. Trying to calculate that to see if that works. That doesn't work. I don't believe that works either. Well, maybe it does if I take their. There's potentially that there. And then if takes. Then you can push g3, queen takes, h3. I was thinking about something like that, and then pushing, but I think that's too passive. let's kind of see what. Sometimes you can go back and take a look to see what their idea was. Let's go to the very beginning. Thinking potentially it's that. Oops, sorry. Here, there, and then maybe the rook actually slides up. But then we lose the bishop there. There has to be, because there's a reason he moved here. It's something to do with the king position. Well, some would say that he's just blocking the knight, but I'm thinking it might have something to do with that. But I'm not real sure. Oh, wait a second. It does work. My bad. What am I thinking? I don't know what my... I just kind of like had to get in the zone. trying to calculate if that's best or if that's best. Because if we take, oops, if we take here, he'll take there, we check there. If he comes here, we don't really have anything after that. Let's see here. There. 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 Here. Well, if we just win there, we win a piece. But then pawn takes there, and that's also hanging. I don't know if it's about material. I think we're close, so close to mate. What do you think, Fox? Is in bishop take, queen takes h6, or rook takes d7? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that. I don't know if this queen. If we take here, he takes there. Check. He doesn't want to play there, so he's not going to play there. So here, 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 there, there. And I think we're really close to the final KO, but I don't think we have enough material, though. Not sure if we have enough material at that point. If we take here, drat. If we take here, pawn takes there, we take there, queen takes here, check, king over, and then checkmate. So maybe it is rook takes d7, and you just have to be okay giving up the bishop. So queen takes, king takes, queen h7, that's right, so far so good, f. Remember, remember the rook's gone. So there has to be... No, we'd love to have that though. You are funny. Trying to see if this works there. It's right here, here, here. Queen might try there. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how we can actually infiltrate in here. I don't know if we have enough material though. I'm trying to actually see if we do have enough material. I believe maybe we do, but boy, this is close to not having enough though. You gotta have 3 pieces, so because I think we're okay if we actually take, but there's so much counterplay that could possibly, you know, rise at this point, like taking here. But if he does that, then we actually can play knight, knight to knight f5. So yeah, let's just give that a go. Oh, snap. Well, we'll pick up here kind of tomorrow. Or wait a second. We'll see, because if this is a little too complicated, let me see. We'll give one more try. Yeah, I made a mistake on that. Yeah, because let's see. Actually, let's work this one out, and then oops, my bad. We'll work. Oops. Yeah, let's hold on. Let's work this one out, and then let's see. I gotta remember. Did I take? I think I took with the, yeah, I took with the rook. It takes there. Takes there. Okay, let's see what the end result is. Okay, so queen moves there. So if takes here, we take there. Or is it takes with the knight? Well, queen takes. Okay, and then if takes here, then you have that, and it's mate 2. So if he plays there, queen takes, takes. that. Probably there. Oh, you want to check what queen? If we do queen f6, I think the knight takes. Oh, gotcha. I gotcha. I see what you're saying. Yeah, and we're losing because of material. Well, we'll call it. We'll pick up here tomorrow. Uh, sometimes, sometimes the hardest thing to do is for learning. So, but you know what? I'd rather get it. I guess learned here than over the board. Yeah. Oh, you're talking here. We can't do f6 if you did. Oh, takes here. Yeah, queen takes. Oh, I see what you're saying. Queen here. Not sure yet what to do if it likes queen takes. More likely it's to keep the attack it'll take. If check, it can't check, so. And then you're gonna have to push. Yeah. So I think, did I answer everybody's question? Good. Do you guys have any more ideas? Do you have any more ideas, Fox, that you want me to go over before I log off? True. Very true. Exactly. That's right. Let's see. Let's take a look here. So knight f6. Knight f6, rook takes f6, and so. Okay. Oh, you want to do that one? Okay. That's why it's forcing. It's that. Is there any other ideas that you guys would like to go over back here? Let's see, where is that? After here, is there any other ideas? Okay, good. Glad I answered all your questions. Okay, guys, keep studying chess. You know, you have your ups, then you have your downs, but we learn from them both, and that's the whole thing. So remember, keep studying, learn from your mistakes, and don't dwell there. Don't feel bad. Just hop right back into it and start studying some more. There's always a plan, the position. We just gotta find it, and if we don't, we find it and we learn from it. So you know that's just the hard thing. Sometimes mistakes cost a lot of points, but you know what? We will get to our destination of 2,500. So remember, guys, as Wesley So says, serve the Lord Jesus. And as I say, God bless. And I'll see you guys next time on Chess Cruncher TV. Have a blessed morning, afternoon, or night. And keep studying chess. And I'll be on tomorrow, Lord willing. Bye-bye, guys.